and people were uploading that as like, oh, this is one of the Demons and Wizards songs. So that's how I found out about Gravedigger.
I
Was
remember that.
they uploaded Excalibur and they said that that was
Dude,
Demons and
okay.
Wizards.
Dude,
Core memory unlocked.
Oh my God, dude. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tone Chugs in Harmony. I am here with Rob Steinway of Glyph and Greyhawk. Very excited to have him here today. We've been buds for a while, talking guitar, so I'm glad to have him here so he can give you some insight on his playing and what he knows, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here, Jason. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's really fun. It's been my favorite thing to get to talk to buddies and guitarists on this and just nitpick their brain. You know, one of my favorite things to do, even as a player of all this time, is you never really stop learning and getting to talk to other players of their approach. It's always insightful. It's always fun. And so far already, just doing this podcast, I've learned a few things, you know, talking to people, thinking about approaching things a new way and trying some different things. Cause I don't know about you, but sometimes it's easy to get kind of stuck in how you do things and what you know. And, it's really cool, you know. So I'll give an example because this just popped to me, and then we'll let Rob talk here a little bit. But people who know me, I'm a stiffler for the down picking, right? But one great song that actually, and if you hear this podcast, you're going to call me a liar because I said the opposite of this. But here's the thing: like you're allowed to change your mind, everybody.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Where Eagles Dare by Iron Maiden, right? It's a song with a triplet feel, and I was always like, oh, I downpick it, right? Because if you can, why not? But funny enough, that's one of the rare occasions where I feel like the downpicking loses the groove of the riff. Mm-hmm. You know, we all know that intro riff to Where Eagles Dare, and when I did downpick it, I was like, it actually doesn't flow as nice. So downpicking isn't always the answer, most of the time. But not always.
Yeah, especially if you wanted to have a little bit more intensity or like maybe aggression too, just between the two. But I can see that definitely with like a little bit more swingy type feel, the like almost like that little like pickups for the chord hits and stuff like that too. So
yep, and I think that's the intended feeling of that riff because the downpicking sounds cool. Don't get me wrong. But like you said, that swing is definitely missing. And it's like, yeah, this sounds like Where Eagles Dare, but it doesn't sound like Where Eagles Dare. And
yep.
Another great example of how like every little thing you do for the riff does matter and make a difference, But anyways, man, how are you doing? How are things going? You just came off a really big, awesome U.S. tour with Elstorm with your band Glyph, and looks like you're doing a Canadian tour with them too. So, I hope you had fun with that. And just how have things been going in the camps, man? Just musically, and all that.
Yeah, man, I've been really lucky in the projects that I've been a part of, been afforded some opportunities to go play on some decently sized stages. Going out with them, they've been gracious to bring us out a couple times here. Has been a lot of fun, definitely eye-opening because I come from a more DIY background. Like all through my 20s, we were doing tours in like super small, 12 passenger vans or minivans, stuff like that. All the seats pulled out, the one back row and then all the gear just stuffed behind that last seat. Coming from that sort of approach to then being able to play in some, the majority of the venues are over 1K cap. And like, the first tour we did with them in 2024, playing for 2,200 people was pretty wild in Montreal, and just each night has been was a great journey and a lot of fun experiences to have. Definitely is very different than playing small digi clubs and stuff like that, dives, to go to that next level and really. You have to sort of reapproach the game with your live performance and how you present yourself and what you do on stage, compared to playing in dives and stuff like that, where you can just headbang the whole time as fast as you can and thrash around a whole bunch. But once the moment you're on stage and there's a very big separation between you and the crowd, you kind of have to approach things a little differently. So, but yeah, outside of that, like you said, the tour coming up here in end of May is going to be another great opportunity going throughout Canada, which I'm really looking forward to as well. So
That's awesome, man. And what is it about Montreal? Every time I talk to somebody, it's always Montreal. That's the show, right?
Yep. Canadians love their metal, man, and Montreal is like, I guess that's the mecca there, because
Yeah.
The shows are always packed, and they're rabid and ravenous, I guess, for any type of metal. So.
Yep. When I toured with Archers back during their Apex album with Helium Prime, at the time we weren't on the Canadian dates, so those were just Striker and Archers, Canadian bands, and I remember looking at the photos of Montreal from that tour, and my God, it was easily the biggest one of even that tour. So yeah, just man, Montreal. Shout out to Montreal. Like, when they say like, because it's like the thing for singers on the tours and stuff. They're like, "You guys are the best crowd." I believe they actually mean that when they're in Montreal. They got to hype up the other cities, but I think it's true for Montreal.
Yeah, so. for sure.
Yeah.
It's a wild place there. Like I said, going out on stage and there's just like everyone's cheering, which is kind of bizarre, and then that goes all night for every band. Everyone's like on 10 the whole time. So it's fun, and it is a crazy. They're a crazy town, and the food and the people are really nice there. So
that's awesome, man. And I assume you're hitting Montreal again on this upcoming one.
Yeah, I don't have all the dates in front of me, but yeah, that is I think the first stop is Montreal. So
what sort of things do you do to prep yourself before a gig? And do you feel any difference from a smaller local gig to like on tour? Like, where's the mindset and performance wise?
So for me, I would say the prep definitely. There's certainly some day of prep, but the prep usually starts for me like well in advance. Leading up to the first tour we did, I was just like, I really need to be dialed in. And I was touring with Glyph as a 5-piece with just myself on guitar. And I knew that it was one of those situations that I needed to be on 100% of the time, all the time. So I kind of took a page out of what you do as on stream, and I was like, I'm gonna start streaming as much as I can, like try to do 3-4 days a week. I'm lucky enough that with Glyph we have all the individual tracks all separated for for our album, and just basically pulled all the guitars out 100%. And I was like, I'm going to jam as much as I can over these, just basically the bass, drums, and vocals, and just do as much as I can with that. And that was kind of the starting point. I know that sounds really stupid to be like, oh, well, you just practice to the music, but like, really, to me, it feels really different to play along to music where there's guitars present. When there's none, you don't get to hide. You can't flub it a little bit. You can't fall off a little bit. If there's a click going and it's just you, if you screw up, you've screwed up, and you can kind of zero in on the parts that are causing you the most issues. And then it's just getting the reps in. But day of and prep before going on stage, I'm a little bit of a nerd, as in I'm going through like, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. So I usually try to go through the most difficult parts of the set, playing wise, backstage after getting all geared up. And it's just it'll be one earbud in, and then just playing along with what I can, and then just really repping those parts that are difficult. And with Glyph, a lot of that comes into the lead playing, but it's still there's some we're not in the Hellion Prime territory or Jason territory for downpicking madness, but there are a couple sections where we have some of that, and a couple of parts too where they were kind of written with alternate picking in mind, and then kind of in the studio we were like, hey, let's just downpick all that because it kicks up the intensity of the part and gives it a whole different vibe. And that kind of was like, okay, well, if it's on the record like that, you got to do it live.
Right.
So it was lots of, prepping with that. But yeah, and a lot of it is just like, a lot of it is mental too. You just kind of like got to shut everything out and get ready to go. And I wouldn't necessarily say there's any like real tricks. It's like a lot of it is, I'm a little bit of an older dude, but I've been doing this a bit, but it's just like, you've been there before. The only difference this time is that the stage is a little bit bigger. There's more people watching you, and like the differentiation between like a bar gig and a large, very large club gig, or in this next tour, like we're playing in like a hockey arena for one of the shows too. It's kind of the same, man. Like I that's kind of a bad answer, but I think if you're doing this, at any level, you should be approaching it as like, I'm going to play how I play for 5 people, the same way I play for 500 people, the same way I play for 5,000 people, the same way I play for 50,000 people. And the goal, of course, is to not play like you're playing for 5 people, but play like you're playing for 50,000 people, no matter how many people are there. So, yeah, it's just like you got to give it your all every show, and hope that it's enough.
Yeah. On that point of like, the amount of people, a good reminder of that for me was on the last Prime tour I did about 2 years ago now. We played this venue, which was sus, right? We've all played the sus venues. Like it wasn't even a venue, man. It was upstairs of an antique shop. And it's just like, here you go. Here's the floor. It was like, all right, cool. And I remember all of us were like, all right, are we cutting the set short tonight? Is it one of those nights? And I remember saying, like, I told everybody, I was like, we will do it unless there's a super fan, right? And of course,
There was a super fan.
dude, not only that, this guy knew my deep cuts. Like, he was like, I've been following you since the Dire Apparel EPs. Like, we all got the releases we try to forget about. And he's like, not only that, he's like, but my 12-year-old daughter loves your stuff, but she couldn't come. And so like, I came here for her too, and I'm buying all your shit. And I was like, lesson learned. And you know what, dude? Like, that show was for him. Like, we fucking rocked the house for that guy. But it was just that reminder of like, you know what, man? Doesn't matter the venue, doesn't matter the crowd. Like, they came for you. Give them the show. And now that's a little different of a topic than like preparing for the show, but I think preparing with that mentality, don't go on the stage not caring. Make sure you're ready to go, and rocking it. And something funny enough, of all the random people, I remember watching something with the bass player of Green Day. And again, it might sound like a no duh, but something I liked of his, I don't do it, but I liked it. And I think it's a good mentality. But he's like, man, before I even get on stage, my energy and my like ability is it already, like, he's like, I'm doing jumping jacks. It's like, I've already been performing for an hour. Like, so when I hit that stage, first song, I'm not warming up. Like, I'm already, he's like, that's the word. I'm sweating before I hit the stage. Now, again,
Yeah.
I don't do that, but I don't want to do jumping jacks. But if you got more ambitious than me, everybody, it's not a bad idea.
I mean, on that point though, I mean, there's something to be said for like the pre-show stretching. Like, I'm sure we all watched the John Petrucci, what is it, Rock Discipline or whatever is his little stretching routine that he would do. But even honestly, like doing some stuff where you get your legs kind of loosened up a little bit, because hey, striking that power stance for 45 minutes straight, your
legs
adds up
feel
after a little bit.
Yeah. And I will do some arm stretching and things like that. So on that, so I know you mentioned you go through the hard parts of the set and stuff. Do you consider that your warm up as well? Or do you do any sort of finger exercises or anything like that to get the fingers loose?
So I used to be a big, like, what is it? The spider routine, the chromatic spider routine. But a lot of it, as the years have kind of progressed, and as you start to get a little bit older, your body doesn't necessarily appreciate being brutalized continually with exercises and things like that. So I try to kind of keep a lot of and one of the things I've done too, just to like make it so that the best practice is the one that you want to do, in my opinion. And I typically just say like, okay, well, there's this part that kind of exercises these types of things. So I'm going to maybe play that part of the song, rep it a couple times, and it'll be something that I'll probably want to focus on anyways. I do a little bit of the chromatic exercises. I'll do some more, specific picking. Like you had posted online a little bit ago of doing the kind of different iterations of some galloping. And I kind of will sometimes do that a little bit, but a lot of the time it's playing parts of songs that exercise those specific pieces. So like if I'm going to do something really, really down pick intensive, instead of just kind of maybe doing an exercise, I'll take a portion of a song and that will become the exercise.
Right.
So we had talked about this in one of your chats when you were doing a Trivium song. You were doing... was it like Light to the Flies or whatever the name of the song is? I'll take that sort of basically once the actual down picking begins, I will play that up through the chorus and then just kind of loop it a little bit because it's just a down picking workout kind of that has some like, jumps up for string skipping and stuff like that. So like that'll be just like, I want to do some down picking exercise. I'll just play that little section of the song a couple times through looped. And that kind of becomes an exercise, but it's just playing part of a song kind of. And I do a little bit of the same with some of the Glyph things as well, some of the Glyph songs. The Greyhawk songs are a little bit different. With Glyph, it's all, thumb on behind of the neck, but Greyhawk has a reasonable amount of songs that are thumb over the neck. So the rhythm process changes with that for the fingering portion. So, yeah, but there's just some assorted things that I'll do, but nothing like super regiment. Like I don't basically hit 30 minutes before I hit the stage, and I'm going to do 15 minutes of just like chromatic, alternate picking, down picking exercises over and over and over again. I used to do that. It works just as well, if not maybe a little bit better. But it just like playing parts of songs has always been kind of my lately has been kind of the way to do it. Just because to me that's just so much more fun than just grinding like a chromatic exercise for 15 minutes straight that you're just going to be listening to it going, ugh, like this again.
Yep. Yeah.
So
agreed. Now I kind of cheat. I don't warm up before a show, and I usually just make whatever our first song is a warm up song. So like, the Prime tour, we opened with The Final Theory, and it's not a hard song, but it's got all the things you need. It's got the down picking, it's got the strumming, it's got, all that. And so it's like, that's my warm up. Cause I'm sure you'd agree. The adrenaline helps too,
Oh yeah.
I find that like when the adrenaline rush is there, my performance is way better than if I'm just sitting in my room. Like sometimes when I'm streaming, I'm struggling to play something that I'm like, I know I can play this, but it's just that, it's that mentality of like, I'm just standing in my room playing, compared to like all that. But yeah, so I think that's the way to do it too, like you said. Now that exercise that I posted with the, I start with the down pick into alternate picking, gallops, triplets. I do that as well before I go on stage, but usually it's like when we're waiting to hit the stage, and I do it because I don't got to think about it, right? I just, and I don't do a lot of the shreds like Rob here does. So I can just do that mindlessly. And also it helps me with the jitters, right? Even now, sometimes you still get those pre-show jitters before hitting the stage. And it's almost like a fidget I can do to just sort of like, being antsy. So it works for two things for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. When you were coming up as a guitar player, what were either bands or particular guitar players that really influenced your playing?
Yeah, I think it actually is going to be maybe somewhat similar to your list, I would assume. When I kind of my musical background, like my family's not into music at all. Like when I was growing up, we didn't really listen to much music. I think they had maybe like maybe like 5 to 7 or 8 CDs, tapes or whatever of just like greatest hits of like Beatles, Michael Jackson, that like Van Morrison, that type of stuff, and
The
that was
stuff you
it.
buy
We
at
didn't
Walmart.
have. Yes, exactly, exactly. Like if we had access to it, they would have had the Now This Is Music collections or whatever. Like, but we,
Bro, do you
they
still
didn't have
remember
any of
Now
that.
This Is Music 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That we would have had that if they would have like been a little bit more interested in music, but we didn't really play or we didn't have any music. Neither of my parents played music either, and I kind of got into metal. Metal was kind of the first music that I was really interested in, and I kind of sought out myself. And luckily, I had internet access, and I would kind of go on there. And I knew of like Metallica and Megadeth. Those were the two bands that I kind of knew. And I went to their forums, back in the day when all the bands had forums, and kind of checked out the music suggestion stuff, and that kind of shot me down the path of like not going in through the new metal route, but I was like Metallica, Megadeth, and then it was like, oh, you should check out Slayer, and if you like Slayer, you should check out Morbid Angel and Emperor. So like I was jumping off the cliff immediately, and then it was like, oh, you like Metallica and like you like Iron Maiden. Well, check out Halloween. So just there wasn't like a gradual. It was kind of into the deep end pretty early. So I would say early influences, you know, Hetfield, obviously, especially from a rhythm perspective, but Metallica in general and the songwriting. Um, I I was really into the band Iced Earth for a number of years. Like that's kind of the early playing, rhythm playing, because way back in the day, the left hand, all the fretting stuff was always a lot of difficulty for me. But it ended up just being kind of focusing on a lot of like rhythm intensive bands where they were more often than not kind of in standard tuning or like E flat or something like that. Because I just had one guitar at the time, and I really just spent a lot of my early years playing just trying to play along with Metallica songs, trying to play along with Iced Earth songs, and that's kind of where the early influences came from. As time progressed, it was more so I kind of leaned a little bit more heavily towards European metal in general. And also melodic death metal. I got really into that for a number of years, and probably chief influences like I really was a huge fan of the band power metal band Gravedigger, or power metal heavy metal band Gravedigger, because they were just so rhythm guitar like focused, just heavy like German power metal style, just like very heavy rhythm guitar focus with some really cool leads that were not impossible to play for me at the time. And also Halloween was another really big influence of mine. Kai Hansen, as a guitar player, songwriter in general, is probably like maybe the top influence.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Real quick,
yeah.
just so we don't get too far, I do want to shout out because I was just talking to another friend about Gravedigger, and I think they are a super unsung band that is great for beginning rhythm players to get into, because as Rob said, their stuff I can't think of a single like, wow, this song is fucking hard from Gravedigger, but it's groovy, it's riffy, so it's a great, especially if you like that Euro stuff, it is a good band to kind of get yourself into, if you're looking for like other bands to sort of learn some simple rhythms to.
Yeah.
I never loved the vocals, admittedly, so it's one thing that kind of kept me from really diving into Gravedigger, but they do got some great riffs. So check them out. Didn't mean to ruin your flow, but before we got too far, I wanted to shout out Gravedigger. I think it is a great band to check out if you're looking for some like simple stuff to get some rhythm chops with.
Yeah, the funny thing I found out about that band because when they announced Demons and Wizards, and I was like, Hansi from Blind Guardian and John Schaefer, what? And I guess Hansi did like a guest like choral part or something for one of the Gravedigger songs, and people were uploading that as like, oh, this is one of the Demons and Wizards songs. So that's how I found out about Gravedigger.
I remember that.
They uploaded Excalibur, and they said that was Demons and Wizards.
Okay. Dude, you
Core
just
memory unlocked.
Oh my god, dude. Okay, you guys, we're talking about the days of downloading shit before Spotify. So I never saw it as Demons and Wizards. It always, for me, it was always downloaded as Blind Guardian. And you guys don't understand. We're talking about, we didn't have things to reference, because I feel like we're probably around this, based on everything you've been saying so far. I feel like you weren't kidding that your journey sounds identical to mine. Started with Metallica, ventured into the iced earth realm, power metal. But dude, you just unlocked this memory of Excalibur. And I remember being so confused because I was like, I thought it was Blind Guardian. Why would I not think so? But it was like the vocals. I was like, this doesn't sound like Hansi.
Hansi sounds really weird. He must have had a cold or something.
Yeah, but oh my, dude, I forgot all about that. But for the longest time, I would when we burned CDs, I would put it on Blind Guardian mixes because it said it was Blind Guardian. Damn, dude. Okay, sorry everybody. That was just literally core memory unlocked on that one. Holy shit. Yeah.
That's how it was. It was the wild, wild west. Like back in the day. Like you were. However someone labeled something, that's what it was, and especially I'm sure, I don't know if you were in the same boat, but I didn't have any like friends or older folks that were more kind of entrenched in metal to kind of be like, oh, here, check this out. It was just like finding out about stuff on the internet or finding out, through friends that you met on on message boards and stuff like that, sending you recommendations of stuff. I remember like finding out about like bands like Insomnium and like even like Sonata Arcta and stuff like that, just from friends in like Finland that were like, oh, here's some cool bands that you should check out. And I was like, oh, cool. So
the way I did it, so I had a friend, Anthony. He was like 17, 18 at the time. I was 12. His family was friends with my family. And all I knew was like Metallica. Dude, I thought like Linkin Park was fucking, oh my God, dude. Like that's so, he showed me Iced Earth and Blind Guardian and all that stuff. And it was funny because he wasn't really into super power metal. He just knew these bands. Like I eventually surpassed him. But two ways that worked for me. I got into Iced Earth and Blind Guardian. Both of them at the time were on Century Media. So I would just go on the Century Media website and look at their roster. That's how I discovered Avantasia. It's how I discovered Dream Evil. Back when like Dream Evil just had Dragon Slayer. Or I think I used Kazam to download shit. And when you would download stuff from Kazam, they would show you like related artists. And I would just start downloading related artists. That's how I discovered like Merciful Fate. Pretty sure Sonata Arctica was that way. So that's how it worked for me. I didn't do the forums and stuff because I just didn't know that was a thing when I was younger. But yeah, sort of similar is, we would have to go dig it up. Here, sorry, this turned into the podcast of two old men saying back in our day.
Oh, you young whippersnappers have it so good nowadays.
We didn't have Spotify. Yeah.
With your metal archives and your Shazams and all that.
Exactly. But on Excalibur, that is a fun riff. Go learn it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, that what is it? Like the Scotland United riff. You drop your guitar, drop D, you're all set to go, and you can just like the whole time, just alternate picking, and then have some cool accents in there.
Oh yeah. So if you have more to say on that thought, please do. But it did spark a question for me.
I mean, like those were kind of the early influences, really. Like I said, it was like start with like the big four or like the most mainstream of like the bigger bands, and then it was like kind of there was no sort of gradual progression. It was like I was checking out like death metal, black metal, melodic death metal, and like power metal like immediately, pretty early on. Once I kind of got recommendations for those, and the only thing that was so frustrating about getting more into the extreme genres though is like when you're just learning, it's so hard to play that stuff, and they're all in like wacky tuning, or a lot of them are in wacky tunings. A bunch of the death metal bands are in like C or B, and like here I am with my knockoff Stratocaster that can barely hold a tune when it's down to E flat. So
I remember trying to learn Blinded by Fear by At the Gates. At the time, I still didn't know alternate tuning existed. Maybe half step. Maybe I knew about EB because like I was into Iced Earth pretty early on in my metal journey. But I vividly remember like learning the song and just being so confused, like, why does it sound wrong? I'm playing what the tabs say, but when I try to play it to the album, it doesn't sound close at all. And my little brain couldn't understand it. And then when I learned they're in like A sharp or something, I was like, oh my God, what is this? And then of course, like we know nothing about setting up a guitar properly. So I tune my, whatever my shitty guitar at the time was, I tune it to A sharp and the strings are just, so fucking flimsy.
Wobbling all around.
And I'm like, this still doesn't sound good. What's happening?
You're playing with spaghetti basically.
Exactly. Yeah, man, I remember those days. So that, so the thought I had, the question was, because back then we didn't have like a lot of like, stuff I'm posting or a lot of other guys posting of these quick little 10-second how-tos or even going on YouTube for instructions. Like if you didn't have a buddy who already knew, or like you said, talking to someone, like you're kind of figuring out these techniques on your own. So especially obviously Metallica, and I've been learning a lot more Metallica lately because I learned Metallica back when I was a kid and I haven't really since. So I've been like relearning a lot of it, and I'm being reminded of why James Hetfield used to be is the powerhouse that he is, especially those younger years. Because, one of the things, okay, I've lost my question for Rob just to say something about James Hetfield real quick. But one of the things I'm regaining my appreciation for with James and or Metallica back in the day is how creative they were with their songs. Relearning things from Puppets and Justice for All they really were in the zone of just like, how wacky can we fucking make this shit? Because they do these random little changes that like wasn't really necessary, and it doesn't really add anything to the song, but it's just cool from a musician perspective. And I think it's great because you don't really notice it. Like I played Disposable Heroes on my stream, and in like the chorus riff, it's like they jump from a 4/4 to a 3/4 with the same riff. And it's like, it's something I wouldn't think to do because like when you're kind of in the groove, but it doesn't really affect the riff, but it's just a cool little like, oh shit, oh my God, this little jump. But it's I don't know, I just thought it was cool, man. They did a lot of little shit like that where they jump time signatures. I don't know how to explain it because it doesn't feel like they're doing it in a proggy way, if that makes sense to you, But
yeah, they kind of like dropped in little extra. It almost seems like too they were perfectly fine with dropping in an extra beat here or there.
Yeah.
Just to make a part go a little bit longer, to like have a little extra like flair to something, or kind of spill into like not a full repeat, but like a partial repeat of something.
Yeah.
And they also really sort of modulate, kind of revisiting riffs with like slightly adjusted or modulated parts.
And that's all over Disposable Heroes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like you got the way it starts. Yeah. That one for sure. That song, I remember being to the point of being able to kind of play along with that and feeling so proud of myself when I was able to do that. I was just like, man, it's not more difficult. This is what, like, that song's like 9 minutes long almost, or something crazy like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
And just being able to play along in like a little bit, I was just like, yeah, I'm doing good.
Yep. So speaking of that, the question I had for you before I went on the little Metallica tangent there is, what really locked in for you when you were younger, trying to learn these techniques, these rhythm styles? Did you have someone that sort of guided you and showed you, or did you quite literally figure it out on your own? And if so, what was the moment where you're like, oh fuck, I get it? And what helped you really lock it in?
Oh man. So I took some guitar lessons when I was very young, like early on playing guitar in my teens, but I any time I took lessons from, it was never from people that were anywhere into any sort of metal stuff at all. It was all very mainstream music or just like kind of the like top 40 or classic rock type stuff, which is great. But a lot of the stuff when I was learning metal, I kind of just sort of strong armed it, like brute force my way through it, trying to figure everything out. And what kind of, what sort of was the moment that everything sort of locked in? I think maybe a lot of it was sort of like forcing myself to, it sounds silly to say, but forcing yourself to slow down. Because when you're first learning, it's so difficult to just be playing along to stuff or trying to play along to stuff, and it's out of your ability. It's beyond your abilities. And honestly, one of the things that helped a lot was just sort of taking some of those mechanics, some of those moves in the picking styles, and just sort of slowing things down a little bit and kind of really dissecting what is being played and how it's being played, and or how you would play it. And then, kind of figuring out the, like, when you're doing like gallops, for example, you're for me, I don't know how you might play them differently, but I always was initially, it was really challenging for me to make everything sound smooth because I was just alternate picking everything all the time. So I would do, like, instead of just doing down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down on the picking, I would do down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And it would always sound weird and disjointed to me. So it sounds really stupid and silly to say, like, just kind of getting those mechanics down at the very base level and figuring out kind of like what works for me, what makes things sound a little bit more accurate and on point. Because back when I was starting off, it was definitely like I wanted to be doing gallops and playing along with these songs where there was a lot of that, and just sort of not having someone to say, hey, stop, like, what are you doing? Do it this way, or try it this way instead. I remember there's a friend of mine that it sounds really weird. He learned everything upstrokes. He didn't get the down picking. Everything he played was upstrokes. So if there was ever a section where there was just like all like down picking, like James Hetfield or whatever, he would do it all upstrokes. And so for him, I remember talking with him and just my mind being completely blown that that's how someone would play it like that. And I sort of was like, well, maybe I should try doing it a little bit differently and things a little bit differently, and showed him like how I would play things, and he would show me how he played things, and it would sound completely different. But sorry, minor tangent, but yeah, like just back in the Wild West, like you said, there weren't these, you couldn't go on YouTube and pull up like how to play Disposable Heroes and then make a couple clicks, and then you have a video of someone that has close-up angles of how they're picking and where their hands are at. So you kind of had to either brute force it or what have you. But yeah, like slowing down was honestly the big thing. And I kind of go back that fairly regularly with sort of metronome work, especially when learning new songs. I'll try to back things off by, like 20%, get 80% of the speed, and then kind of play along and really focus in on the mechanics of what's going on, the picking, especially rhythm and things like that too, for the counting.
Right.
But yeah, like that, it's so silly, and that's like a super frustrating thing for people to hear of, like, just slow down, play things slowly, get those mechanics in good, get the movements in solid, and then let's worry about going full speed. Let's build up that ability. So
Right. But you said two things that I think are important that I want people listening to kind of soak in. So I know Rob said it's silly, but if you've heard a common theme with everyone I've been talking to, it is slow down. We're in the genre of metal, so we all want to play fast, but to get these mechanics, like you said, you got to dissect them. You got to understand what you're doing before you go fast. Or else you develop these habits and these muscle memory patterns that are wrong. Yeah, you're playing fast, but you're not playing right. And I think it's more important to play right than fast. So slowing down, right? That's a common thing we've heard with almost every guest. And it is important. And that, by the way, that goes with everything, not just rhythm, solos, slow down. Every friend of mine I've asked who just fucking shreds, slow down. They're like, I was talking to, it was Donnie. Yeah. First episode, he was talking about this sweep technique. He's like, I literally played that shit slow for a year, right? No one wants to hear that. but sometimes there you go. And another thing you mentioned, right? Again, the Wild Wild West, or figuring things out, or your buddy does it this way or that way. I think another important thing to remember, especially in a world of everyone online telling you their way is the right way, there are multiple ways to do something. Now, there are efficient ways to do things, and you should learn proper techniques. But, if trust your body, right? Like you were saying, Rob, you would do it a certain way and it just didn't feel right. That's different than there being one way to do something. Like if you're doing something a way that's not the norm, but it sounds good and feels right, then it's probably okay. To use James Hetfield as an example, and that I've said this before on other episodes, that dude uses 3 fingers holding his pick. Most people don't. That doesn't mean, but holding your pick with 3 fingers isn't going to get you some secret sauce to the down picking. There are plenty of amazing rhythm players who do it the quote traditional way of just holding your pick with 2 fingers. But that's what worked for Hetfield,
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, I mean, even people, I've seen folks do 2 fingers with these 2 and just pick that way. And then those are I think it is, Andy Gillian from Mors Principium Est. I was watching him play live, and I was like, what the heck? He's picking like this, like with his middle finger and his thumb. And I was like, why the heck would he do that? And I guess he comes from a piano background, so maybe it has something to do with that. But then I was watching him play, and whenever he does a lot of sweep tapping, and I was like, oh, he's set. Like it's literally, he doesn't have any movement. His index finger is right there for the tap. So he sweeps and just immediately taps, and there's no adjusting or anything like that. He doesn't have to pull a finger out or twist his wrist or anything.
That's brilliant.
It's just right there, ready to go. Now, that being said, you should find out what works best for you. It's a lot of the same thing too when people say, well, what picks do you use? Like, what picks do you use? And it's just like, figure out what works best for you. Yep. Like, if you're a nerd like me, you got the Jazz 3 style, the small ones.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm over here with these giant motherfuckers.
Yep.
And
yep,
so
yeah.
And but it works for us,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So, and that's the funny thing too, because like if I play a Jazz 3, dude, I'm so lost. I'm out of my element, and but it's just what I'm used to, what I'm accustomed to. And that's the thing too, is like subconsciously, I've molded my playing to these big ass picks. And so it's like anything else just feels so weird. And you have to, it's not that you can't get it real quick. Like obviously you can pick it up a little quicker when you've been playing for so long, but it still initially feels weird. And that goes back to string gauges. And I was talking about this with someone else too. Like I use heavy fucking strings. I just like it. But the thing is I like feeling like I'm fighting my guitar. I don't know. Like I do. I like a heavy guitar, heavy strings. I like that fight, Mm-hmm. But a guitarist, we were talking about Taylor Washington from Paladin, fucking masterclass motherfucker. He uses some thin motherfucking strings. Like I remember he shared a photo of his strings, and I think they were like 7s, dude. Like, but am I gonna fucking say Taylor's wrong? Hell no. So
no, a lot of the. I think one of the things that probably a lot of your guests too will say, like, I mean, there's certainly something to be said for learning techniques, and a lot of it is kind of figuring out what works best for you, what unlocks things for you, and if you're really just struggling with like some of these more intricate rhythm patterns and fast rhythms, maybe it's time to take a peek at like what's going on. You've looked at your technique and stuff, like change it up, maybe like up the gauge of the strings, lower the gauge of the strings. You might find that you have like a lighter touch, and so you're probably maybe would be beneficial to get to some lighter gauge strings or thinner pick. You never know. Experiment. That's the nice thing about where we're at right now, is there's so much of all these different string brands, gauges, all that. Picks, same thing. You can try out all sorts of different things and find something that works for you. And Jason might say, oh, the big picks, the thick strings. I might be like, oh, I like a little tiny pick, but like thick strings as well. But for you, it might be like you have a really thick gigantic, big old pick, and you have really light gauge strings, but that just works best for your playing. It's just figure out what works best for you is kind of one of the main things. Don't listen to these talking heads on the internet telling you to buy things.
Right.
Find what works best for you.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. Like if you watch my videos or other people's videos and they're telling you, like, that's the thing to remember too, is like if someone, because I might even do it in my videos where I'm like, do this. I'm just showing you what works for me. So if you do it and you're like, it's not working, or you might see people be like, oh, that's not right. I'm like, well, what's not right about it? Does it sound good? Am I playing it correctly? Like, there's multiple ways, and you're going to hear different things, and you should hear different things. And that's another thing I'm hoping comes from this, is to hear the different mindset of many players who are all great players. And that's the point, is they all have their way, and you might hear similarities, and that's a good thing too. Because again, one thing we've heard that's repeating: slow down, take a breath, and so if you hear a common denominator, then that's probably a good thing to pursue, right? And now, of course, that's more with practice, but yeah, just don't be afraid to fuck around and find out. And I'm pretty sure I said that before too, yeah. But that might be the most important thing: fuck around, find out, and you'll get there. I've seen people commenting like, I've been trying and trying, I just can't do it. It's like, you can do it. I promise you. We just got to figure out, what it's going to take for you to be able to do it.
Yeah, and plateaus are a real thing, man. In playing, I'm sure you're probably in the same boat as I, and I'm sure everyone that's been on this pod with you is same thing. Of just like, you're going to hit these points where you're just going to be stuck, and you are going to be banging your head against the wall, and you're not going to be progressing. You're going to hit like be it a speed point, be it like something with intricate rhythms or anything like that, lead playing, whatever. You're going to hit a point where you're just going to get stuck, and you're going to be stuck for a bit. And then you're going to just go to sleep one night, and you're going to wake up the next, and suddenly everything will click perfectly together, and you'll be like, wow, that tempo, I was having trouble with that yesterday. What the heck? It's just, there's something in our brains, in the mind-body connection, that like, you get stuck on some things, and then something happens. I wish I knew what it was, because if I could, then I wouldn't have to deal with it. But like, no, there were situations too where I would be like, just pounding away at like a song and just not able to get it up to speed. And then I would take a break for like a long weekend, 4 or 5 days or whatever, and go do something else. Maybe not sacrilege to say, but not pick up the guitar at all and don't play. And then you come back to it, and there's just something different about your approach, your mind, and you hit it, and you're able to hit that level where you need to hit. So
yeah, I don't remember the exact phrase, but it's that whole like, sometimes the right action is no action, and sometimes that's what you need. And a very recent example for me is I was streaming the other day, and it just wasn't happening. No matter what I played, no matter what, I was like, I'm just not locking in today. I couldn't get warmed up. My playing was slop. And then the next day I streamed again. That's fine. Sometimes you just have off days, and that's cool. Yeah. It just happens.
Yeah. And part of all this game too is just like doing all the homework, doing all the prep, so that when you hit these like hurdles where you're stuck or you're just struggling to make things work, you're able to kind of push through it as much as you can if you're in a spot where you have to perform. So say like, same thing with you. If you got a live show and you're not feeling it today, you got to just muscle your way through it somehow, by hell or high water. Luckily that's why we put all this time in. That's why we put all this practice in, to hopefully when we get to that point, if we're feeling a little bit down or whatever, or just struggling with things, playing wise, we can kind of push through it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And through this, you kind of sparked some questions that I like to ask too. So we've talked about live. We've talked about just sort of practicing or figuring things out and stuff. But is there anything specific that might help you sort of in the studio? Because that is such a different beast, right? And there's days when I'm recording that it's like not locking in. And the same thing for me goes of like, look, man, if you're not getting the take, then come back to it, right? But what are some things you do to prep your guitars for the studio? Not so much like maintenance, but just playing and in the studio, what helps you kind of get the best solid takes?
Yeah, this when the red light is on, that's when the that's when the pain begins.
Yeah.
Because the thing that really sucks about recording is that you might nail the part, like you might play it perfectly fine, but you might be a little smidgen out of tune. We don't have to worry about that because we got the Evertunes, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, when you're in the studio, you might nail a take playing wise, but like, you know what, like you're a little bit out of tune, or maybe you press the strings a little bit too hard and everything's a little sharp or whatever. But yeah, honestly, the one of the main tricks that I've found that is a little bit of a helper for going into the studio, and this is maybe a little specific to like rhythm playing. I will sometimes kind of play a part, or like when I'm doing the prep for the studio time in advance, I'll just bump the tempo up to, like, instead of being I'll bump it up maybe like 10%. So we'll be playing a song at like 110% versus playing it at like just the normal speed. So just to like make it a little bit more challenging. And if in theory, the thinking would be if I could play it, 15 beats per minute faster, then when I hit the studio, that dropping it down a little bit will make the song a little bit easier to record. As that would be my one main sort of practice trick, I guess.
I like it. I've never done that, but I might try it.
Honestly, it sounds so silly to be like, oh, just bump it up 5 beats per minute or 7 beats per minute, but it makes a difference. Like if you're, I've one of the things I do every once in a while for just like getting the rhythm chops down a little bit is I will take songs and just kind of again loop them and play along, and then just mess around a little bit with the tempo, like bumping it up maybe like 5-10 beats per minute, and then just try to play along. And like that, when some of the songs, the pain really begins with that. But honestly, like if you go from that point where you're maybe like getting close to being comfortable playing something like 5 beats per minute faster, and you drop it down a little bit, you'll feel the difference, and you'll be like, this is so much easier now. Now that's specific for fast rhythms, and obviously when we're getting into some really fast stuff, doing that sort of modulation a little bit faster gets to be really difficult because you're really going fast.
Hey, what's up, everyone? We had an internet issue and it sort of cut out our feed, but here we are a day later. We're going to wrap up this interview with Rob and get him out of here. So if you're wondering why I'm wearing a different t-shirt and my camera looks better, that's why. But Rob, you were telling us about recording techniques, kind of what you do in the studio. Is there anything you wanted to wrap up with that?
Yeah, sure. My other technique that I use while I'm actually doing the physical recording process, I use a lot of looping parts. So in the past, when I recorded myself, I would start recording, stop the take, listen back to the take, be like, oh, that's not good enough, whatever, and then start all over again. But more recently, I messed around a lot with just looping, where you just kind of have a specific section, usually a full repeat of a riff or something like that. Especially is great for rhythm playing, but a full repeat of the riff and just have it run and just get lay down like 10 to 15 takes. And usually the first like 6 or 7 takes are usually pretty trash. They're not even worth really listening to, but I found that I'll usually get in a little bit of a groove and start to really feel the part and feel the flow of the riff, and then be able to have at least 4 or 5 really solid takes that I can choose from, or in turn use as like a quad track, a dual track, whatever, however many tracks you want to use for that part. And that usually gets at least I found some of the best takes. I don't think nothing really compares to having someone in the room with you doing all the producing and, starting and stopping and picking out takes. But if you're just by yourself, like many internet guitar players are, and people in bands that are doing home recording and then taking those DI tracks and bringing them to a studio to reamp or sending them to someone, just the looping trick. And I'm sure probably a lot of people, they already do something like that. But for me, at least, it was a pretty big game changer when I started getting into that. And then just, spend, like I said, drop down 10 to 15 takes of one section of a song, and then just listen through, find the best two, three, four, however many takes, and then pull those aside, and then you're right there. You have a quad track right there, or a dual track, whatever you'd like. So
Very cool, man. Is there any like crucial? We might have talked about this again. Apologize, everybody. We are. But any crucial differences you approach your rhythm guitar playing from studio to live?
okay, well, to me, you obviously want to capture a lot of energy in the studio, but you also I feel usually getting as close to perfection or really, really good in the studio is where you want to be. For me, live, I think live's a whole different animal. You have to really bring a lot more energy, a lot more visual performance live, especially if you just think of some of the favorite live shows you've seen. I think for a lot of people, those favorite live shows aren't those the shows where the guitar player, everyone played absolutely perfectly 100% of the time, and they were just statues, and they just ripped through all the songs flawlessly. You're not really remembering that as much. You're remembering those moments where, the guy ripping a solo is 1 foot up on the monitor, the guitar's way up high, he's rocking and rolling, and there's a lot of feel, and he's connecting with people. I think to me, live is a lot more about the connection with the crowd, the connection with the audience. You having fun what you're doing, I feel translates very well to the crowd. And think of it this way: if someone's on stage and they look like they're just phoning it in, they might be playing perfectly, but if they look completely disinterested in what they're doing, you're probably not going to enjoy it as much. But when you think of all the greats, you think of Iron Maiden. What does Iron Maiden do when they're playing live? They're running around the stage. What is Bruce Dickinson doing? He's running all around the stage, waving flags, doing jumps off monitors. You got Dave Murray. He's smiling and like big guitar shapes with the arms, things like that. To me, like, I feel a live performance, you got to bring in a lot of visual aspect of it. And for me, at least personally, and I'm sure with you too, some of our favorite performers and performances are the ones where you visually have something to lock in on. And until you have a really big budget to have fancy light shows, costumes, props, whatever, the way you do that is you go out and, I guess, just rock the hell out and have a really fun time, and hopefully that translates to the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, man. So, Rob, I want to thank you so much for being here and for doing this and coming back a second time so we could actually finish it up and stuff. And I appreciate your time, man. So I want you to know that. And thank you for all this great wisdom you gave. I had a really good time with this one. And before we go, though, we're going to hit you with some rapid fire questions that I usually like to ask all the guests before they get out of here. So these are more fun, just nothing too serious, and just sort of whatever comes to mind first, go for it. And usually I have them written down, but not tonight. So we're just going to go off memory here. But speaking of just the last thing we kind of talked about, who is a band that you would love to go out on the road with?
Ooh. Personally, there are two bands stick out in my mind. Number one, we've played a couple festival gigs with them, but Striker from Canada is a band that every time I've seen perform, they've been awesome. They're a lot of fun to watch live, but I would really love to be on the road for, a couple weeks with those guys and see them do the good work that they do every night. I mean, that's like a band where there's literally like 4 lead vocalists in the band.
Speaking of like the difference of recording in studio and like being more flashy, Striker is a band that pulls both off live.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, they're a band I actually, there's some bands you say like, oh, I like them better live. That is Striker.
Yeah, 100%. They're an amazing live band. They epitomize that thing we were just talking about live, where there's a lot going on visually. They really give it their all. Another band that I would absolutely love to go on tour with, Unleash the Archers. We're going full Canada. I would love to be on the road with Unleash the Archers. Those folks are amazing, and their music's great as well, and they're good live performers too. Like, it's just being on the road with both those groups would be just like a blast and just a pleasure each night, because both bands, every member of that band, those bands are at like, you know, the pinnacle. They're at the top for the North American, you know, power metal, whatever you want to call it, you know, heavy metal scene. They're all killer players and great live performers as well at every level.
I feel bad. I lived your dream, brother. On the Apex tour, it was Archer's Striker Prime. So
and on
both.
Apex too.
But
on Apex.
yeah, I wasn't on that one, but yeah, so it was the two of them. So could happen, man, when Archer's is ready again, right? Archer, Striker, Glyph, or Greyhawk.
Make it happen.
Whoever.
Yeah, make it happen. Call us, folks.
Yep.
How about you? What would your pick be, out of curiosity? I don't know if you've answered it in other.
No one's asked me. God, for me, it's so weird, man, because like the people I would pick don't really fit my band. Well, no, that's not true. So Trivium, for sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think Trivium would work. We're close, you know. I always jokingly say when Trivium has a new album, I've got new material, you know. Trivium for sure. Devin Townsend. I'm also going to go Canadian on that one. Mm-hmm. Devin Townsend for sure. Blind Guardian, right?
That's a killer one. Holy I wouldn't mind that one either too.
Yeah, I think those would be top three for sure. And another, maybe Symphony X. No, not maybe, definitely. There's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. All bands, all those bands would be like absolute pleasure just to see perform every night, because
exactly.
You know, they're all great at what they do, and you know, especially I think I know in some circles Trivium they're not super popular, but I think a lot of people, if they really delve into their catalog, would be impressed by the songwriting, and then also the playing is at an extremely high level. And they're really those guys all can rip, but there's such an emphasis on songwriting, hooks, and just like delivering at like a really high level.
Yeah, so. To me, they're one of those bands that they're still just getting better. Like, I don't think we've heard the best of them yet. And you know, funny enough, not to go on a Trivium rant real quick, everyone, but I always say about Trivium, when I hear people say they don't like Trivium, I have to ask why, because the way I came to love Trivium was from not liking them, right? You know, when I was younger and more metal elitist and like, oh, metalcore? Nah, dude. And I'd always be like, nah, Trivium sucks. And Heather Michelle, you know, my best friend, singer and stuff, she finally one day, I think she was annoyed with me saying it. And she's like, well, why do they suck? And trying to prove to her why, like, listen to this song. I'd be like, okay, that song's not that bad, but listen to this song. Okay, that one wasn't too bad, but listen to this. This one sucks. And I was like, shit, I think I like Trivium. And now they're one of my favorite bands.
To me, again, we're a little diversion here at the end of the podcast, but it's really interesting how I feel like they above everyone, they took the hate, they took the memes, all the like the people poking fun at them, and they just said, fuck it, and they embraced it. And they just kind of almost seemingly encouraged it and said, sure, do your worst. Mm-hmm. And then laughed at the stuff that people came up with everyone. Mm-hmm. And then I think eventually, like, people just realized, you know what, like, they got a good sense of humor. They're good people. They clearly like to have fun and enjoy a good joke and can take a joke.
Yeah.
And, you know, it kind of, their music, like, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan, but they have a very, very solid catalog. They're great players, and they definitely care about delivering the goods at high levels, and they're also not adverse to changes. And like, they had the album or two where Matt's voice was all messed up and he couldn't do the extreme vocals anymore, so they reinvented the wheel there and kind of changed their sound a little bit for an album. And then when he was ready to come back with his more extreme vocals again, they went back to that, and they've seen a lot of success. And like, I think we talked before offline here that, you know, like, it's kind of wild that their last number of albums that they've been releasing have been very, very impressive. And like, it's not like any reduction in quality, or like, you're just like, oh, they wrote the same songs all over again. It's like new, fresh ideas, new riffs, new things. So
Yeah. Yeah. I always say like their last three are actually my favorite. So to make it make sense in this podcast for those listening, they are beast rhythm players as well. So go listen. Yeah. But all right, we'll get back to our rapid fire questions though. So speaking of albums, of every album you've done so far, what are you most impressed with as far as your playing? Which one are you like? Do you listen to and you're like, "Damn, I'm very proud of myself for this." And all could be the right answer, but I'm more looking for even a specific song, just something that you're like, "Fuck,
Okay.
man, I did that." Yeah.
So let's see here. I I think from me, the the Glyph full length album, I was really pleased on how that came out. Like that was probably the first album that I've played on, where I kind of listened back after the fact, and I didn't have anything that like was like glaringly like just staring straight at me that I was like, oh, I wish I could have changed that. That album, and then honestly, too, the new Greyhawk as well. Both those albums, I was really happy with how they turned out. Playing wise, I think like if we're talking strictly rhythm playing, I felt like the stuff that I did on that Glyph album specifically, and there's nothing that's super crazy on that, but like myself and Jeff Black, who is the main person of Glyph, he basically he produced all the takes, and we just had like I think it was like 4 or 5 days at my house, and then we wrapped up like with one day at his place. Maybe it was 2 days at his place, or sorry, his wife's place, before he had, while we were still doing the more long distance stuff. I was really just pleased with how all that turned out, and we really meticulously recorded things. We went full nerd mode. I bought the super expensive guitar strings that are the $15 a pack strings for a guitar.
Oh yeah.
We were changing them every song. We were just like being pretty brutally honest about like every take that we recorded. And if something wasn't good enough, we were doing it over again. And I was just really pleased, start to finish, how that turned out. So
Awesome.
that's probably my short answer. My not so, or I guess my not so short answer, but my lead answer for lead playing. I know we're a rhythm podcast, but I was actually really happy with the guest solo I did on the most recent Owlbear album. They asked me to do a guest solo on was it Hawk Riders of the Wastes, or Hawk Riders of the Wastes? I can't remember if it's Wastes or Wastes, but they asked me to do a guest solo, and I was really pleased with how my solo that I had recorded with that turned out. And I'm primarily a rhythm guy. That's in every band that I'm in. I'm usually mostly playing rhythm stuff. The Glyph in Glyph, I'm taking solos here and there, live more so, but as far as recorded stuff, that the Glyph album for rhythm, the Greyhawk album for rhythm, and then that guest solo that I did on the Owlbear album, I was really happy with the lead playing.
Nice.
So,
All right, so everybody listening, you have starting points of what to go listen to for Rob's music.
yeah.
Cool, man. All right, well, we're gonna get you out of here, and I again appreciate your time. But before we go, let's let people know what you're doing, what you're up to, and where they can find you.
Great. I guess just the sales pitch or whatever. If you're interested in, I guess, power metal or power metal heavily influenced by heavy metal, I play in two bands, Glyph, and as well as Greyhawk. That's Greyhawk with a Grey Hawk. Yeah, those are the two bands I play in. I play guitar in both bands. And then this coming up in the end of May, last 2 weeks of May, I'm doing a Canada tour with Greyhawk. We're opening for Ailstorm and Twilight Force's direct support for Ailstorm, so we're going to be on with them for about 2 weeks. And then if anyone is in the Midwest, Chicago, Southern Canada area, and you're going to be at Legions of Metal coming up here in the next, I guess it's in about a week, I'll be filling in on second guitar for Owlbear at that festival as well. So come say hello.
Awesome. Is there anywhere maybe they can find you specifically if they want to follow your work, like anything that you do?
Yeah. Basically, if you want to see my my band posts, my band reels, and things like that, and advertisements, as well as stories that involve what concerts I'm going to and what books I'm reading, you can find me on Instagram, and that would be Steinway0, Steinway number 0. So.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you again, man. And everyone listening, please go follow Rob here. He's a great guy, great guitarist. And if you want to join a community with other like-minded rhythm guitarists or just guitar lovers, join the Rhythm Dominion Discord. Follow this podcast, share it, rate it, do whatever, tell your friends. And I hope to see you guys on the next one.
Thanks for having me on, Jason.
Of course. See you soon.